We're, we are now live.
I'll mute yourself.
Hello?
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, my audio is off. We're going to turn it back on at 5 o'clock when everyone comes in. We're just muttering amongst ourselves at the minute. You off? Maybe we just roll into a real casual like. There's a there's a okay. Stand by. Technical difficulties. Kia ora, Jan. How are you, my friend? Kia ora, Scott. Nice to have you here. Where are you from, my friend? Jess, James, Shane. We got people rolling in. Fizzed. Fizz for this. Well, I am fizz too. Fizzing actively at the bung. 2 minutes till 5 o'clock. Wonder if we'll get anyone from Ukraine. Dan Redfern in the house. Welcome, Dan. How are you, bud? 8 in the morning. Okay, Ukraine's going to be up. And it's Friday morning for them. So they're probably going to be at work. But hopefully we get some representation. Mm-hmm. I can promote to panelist. Got that? Cool, perfect. Jess will be rejoining as a panelist. Craig Scott, my friend, how are you? What's the weather like down in sunny Nelson today? Thank you, Longer. We'll just wait for the room to fill up a little bit. Feel free to drop a comment. Where you're from, what's going on, how your day's been. I've had a ripper of a day, just preparing for this. Fizzed for this. Hell yes, I'm fizzing as well. Who is that? Just his iPhone. What's your name, sir or madam? Okay. Well, I guess we'll just wait for the next couple of minutes, see if we get a critical mass roll in. There we go. Tani Oro Martin, how are you, brother? Thank you for joining. James Isaacs, nice to see you. Bit of Tree King representation. What's it like down in TA today, Tani Ora? You still in TA? Cold. Yeah, she's nippy. She's nippy. Nick T, there you go. Well, thank you for joining, Mr. Thompson. It's a pleasure to have you here. Nice. Starting to flow in now. James Isaacs, I haven't seen a comment from you. What have you been up to today, man? What's going on in your world? So you've been building a lot of tree nets, and I'm real keen to know where you put that one over that body of water. That looked cool as hell. Gotta not use the bad words. Well, if anybody would like to post the link and invite their dear friends to hear what I have to say, now would be the time to do it. Inundate all manner of social media and get the word out there, fill the room up, and we'll get started shortly. It's at your place, the waterfall. You have a waterfall at your place? Oh, we be keen to see that, man. I guess we'll give it another couple of minutes and we'll get started. Hikaru Sakamoto, my friend, how are you? Welcome to the webinar. For anyone who doesn't know Hikaru, he is a tremendously intelligent and cool man that I met about a year ago and started discussing the topic of the Evergreen token with. And yeah, his ideas have really helped me with what I'm doing, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you on board, Hikaru. Rue, I see you there. How are you, my friend? What's going on? I guess we'll crack into it. First of all, big thank you to everybody who is here live on the presentation. I really appreciate it. A little bit of background on myself, although I know pretty much all of you know me. I have been tackling this problem of losing urban canopy ferociously for the last 3 years. There was a point in my life where I kind of stood up and I realized nothing's going to get better unless we change it. And we seem to have this big resistance to change. So I went on this mission to really figure out what was going on. And it led me on a path that was surprising. There was some twists and turns, and I've come to a place I never would have thought I'd end up at. And that place is financial. The answer, well, the problem we have is financial. And it comes down to our economic system is eating the planet. This probably isn't news to anybody. It's an idea to say we keep putting the nature and the environment and the trees and the wildlife aside, pushing them back, pushing them out in the name of an economic gain, which doesn't make any sense because the economic system itself doesn't make any sense, because essentially when money is created, the interest to it's created as a loan, and the interest to pay that back is not created at the same time, which creates a structural pressure to make more and more and more money constantly all the time. And we, in our nations, our GDPs, gross domestic product, it doesn't discern between consumption and production. It just measures what money changes hands. So essentially what we're doing is we're going out every day thinking we're doing the right thing, participating and contributing to the economy. But what actually needs to change is what we go out and do every single day. If we don't change what we're doing as a default, we will not change the outcome that we get. So, I mean, the kind of larger point is a lot of people in this room are cutters. I myself am a cutter. I've built my career on cutting trees down. That's how most people know me around the world. That's how I got famous, is thumping a great big redwood down. But it makes sense that if we, the cutters, do not stop cutting, we will continue to lose the canopy. And that doesn't make any sense. So we need a solution that is built around changing what we, the cutters, do. So we need to build a parallel system adjacent to this one that we're on currently, whilst we still have some energy in the current system. It's an extraction system that we have currently, and we need to move to a system that rewards us, the participants, for the presence of trees. Okay. By the way, do feel free to comment questions, flick them out there. It would be really nice if this is interactive. I really thrive on conversation and picking things apart and answering questions. So don't be afraid to drop a question in the chat. We got someone watching it, and we can feed that into me. So the solution, if the problem is we, the cutters, need to stop cutting, the solution is we need a system that incentivizes tree presence. That is to say, an economic function where we participate in and get rewarded for the tree standing up. And to do this, there's two things that we have to believe. We have to believe that trees are valuable, and we have to believe that we can convince the decision makers, the rest of our society, that they are valuable as well. We all know, obviously, that trees are valuable, but I think the second part is where we struggle the most, in the convincing, because we've been beaten down so many years by the client overriding what we think should be done to the tree. So we have this scar built up around, we don't believe that we can convince people to retain trees anymore. So we need those two beliefs. The underlying mechanism of this problem is that trees are invisible to the economy, and we make decisions in our society based on economics and financials. I mean, it's the lifeblood, it's the energy that sustains us, and when we don't have it, it gets very stressful. And so we avoid that as much as we can. But trees are valuable. That value is just not visible to the economy. We're not measuring what a tree does when we take it out. We just take it out. Where I'm going with this is an identity shift. We, the arborists, essentially right now function to society as the removers of canopy, the cutters, the takers away. We cut where they point. And what we need to do is reorganize our industry value around providing trees, around what benefits do trees actually give off and supply to us, and how can we tap into that value, the value of stormwater mitigation, the value of carbon sequestration, the value of air pollution removal, and the value of a cooler climate that we live in, especially when you look at the weather and what's coming to us in this next summer with the Super El Nino. We really need to be looking at what these values are and what they're providing. So we need to tap into that service delivery to source our income. This is going to be diabolically hard. It's not a simple, we just change and everything's fine. Like, we're talking about building new systemic infrastructure for the whole global industry to run on. So I'm a confident guy. I like to take on challenges, but I want to be very abundantly clear that this is going to take everything from everyone to build together if we so choose to do it. So, what I'm proposing, if I can just bring my notes up, bear with me, is to build the evergreen token to create that tree presence incentive. Okay, so the mechanism for the evergreen token is this. The arborist scans a tree. It mints a token that represent the tree's output, essentially a digital representation of what the tree does for us. That token is given to the owner of the tree, the provider of the tree, and they will collect a yield. The yield comes from the services the tree is providing to society. So the point in holding the token is because it pays you. You plant trees in your garden and you keep the trees that you have because it's paying you financially, because finances are a language that people still understand, and we do not any longer understand the connection with nature. We don't have an innate connection with nature anymore. So we've got to put it in a language that people can understand. So who's going to pay for the services of trees? What a ridiculous concept. Many people have said to me. But the answer to it is whoever has a reason to buy the services trees put out. It's a truly valuable thing that they put out, and because we don't recognize it, we are disappearing. If nobody pays you for your work, you stop doing it. So when we lose trees across the city, the stormwater infrastructure bill for whomever pays it goes up. The electricity bills for the houses that they were shading go up. The bills for the health of the population, because we're breathing dirtier air, they go up. Mental health services bills go up. And the idea is that we approach these entities and institutions and we say, your bills are reduced by the presence of trees. So if you can take a fraction of what that tree is providing you and pay for it, then you're not going to have to pay the full consequence when the tree is gone. And if we refer back to the previous point of the economy is eating the environment, the reason I started with that is because I'm certainly convinced that the trees will all be gone and we will be racing to cut down the last one. So this is what my insight here is based on. So the real open question here is, if we as an industry all came together and decided to put a stop to this, because it will be something that we have to do together, how does that go? Do we believe in our own ability to make change in the minds of decision makers? Do we, as arborists, as tree people, as green industry specialists, do we believe that we can convince the people in society who make decisions to change? And I think there's a real identity shift that needs to happen before we can do that. So let me just find where my notes are. But the precondition to all of this is we're going to have to become drastically more efficient as a profession ourselves before we can do this. How does the money feed back to arborists as income? Dan, great question. So in this new economy, the services the arborist is providing is going out and selling the value of trees. So when we sign up a yield payer, there's an opportunity to take a clip there as well. But the primary function is scanning and minting the trees. That would be a paid service. And also, if you think about it, if we have an incentive to provide trees and these trees pay people, people are going to want, the bigger the tree, the bigger the service. And so people are going to want bigger trees because they're going to pay them more. So our role will no longer become make them smaller, it'll become make them bigger. We'll be mulching, we'll be doing very light structural reductions to ensure the longevity and health of the tree. So it's still tree work. It's just with a different mindset in mind. hopefully that answers your question. I'm going to move forward. Precondition, we have to become far more efficient ourselves. So what I'm talking about is literally as simple as this. We currently run a system. We're going to have to keep running that system because it pays our bills, puts food on the table, and keeps the mortgage paid. And we're going to have to build a new one out of that system parallel at the same time. So that means we need to be more efficient with everything we do. We need to get more things done per unit of time. There's a lot of proof of this in my own life because I've been fighting this battle for nearly 3 years now. And my team will tell you that the amount of growth I've had to do is unbelievable, and them too. It's certainly not a just me thing. So in January, we nearly got liquidated because my focus has been on the Evergreen token, the industry solution. So I've been trying to pull out of operations a long time and been on this mission of self-improvement, self-discovery, self-actualization. And the crux of it is it didn't really work. We came to a grinding halt, and my accountant and a specialist consultant accountant in January came to me and said, "You need to liquidate. This business is going nowhere. There's no way you can continue. There's no path forward." I had to get unbelievably good to keep the company alive. And what the team has done is they have taken it upon themselves to manage the company for their own benefit, to take responsibility and to take accountability. We collectively gave up on the idea that I need to be present to manage you. You have to do what I say, and this is how you do it, and I'll lay it out. This is a really unhelpful idea, but we don't see it because that's how businesses run. And they've been running this way for decades, and it's just a model we inherited because the boomer generation, who created an enormous amount of wealth, they built these structures of management, of hierarchy. And here we are in a situation where everything they've built, while very effective at delivering an economic return, is not pushing us forward as a society, as a civilization. So we give up on the idea of management of other people, and we invite people to take responsibility and accountability in their own life. So we did this in, like I say, December, January, and we went from nearly liquidating, very nearly liquidating, to me being entirely out of the operations of the company in May. Okay, so from December to May, that's 5 months. That is a level of efficiency that is, I guess, unheard of. And I'll just state plainly, are we stable? No. Is the team learning and growing faster than any team I've ever seen in the history of the world? Yes, absolutely. Once we made that invitation and invited, excuse me, I'm drinking beers, invited everybody to take accountability for the company and where they wanted to go with it, we stopped wasting all this energy managing it, and the company just started moving forward by itself without me watching it. And so where I'm going with this is, if we were to adopt this model as an industry, how much spare energy could we unlock to build something new? Because everybody knows arborists don't have a lot of money. We don't have a lot spare. We're grinding 50, 60, 70 hours a week to keep up with the cost of living. And so how on earth can we build a new system when we're running this close to the line? The answer is give up on assumptions that no longer serve us. So we have a shared accountability and responsibility model within the company. Everyone can see the financials. Everybody has say on what they want to do and how they want to do their job. It's no longer a, I say you do. It's giving the authority back to individual human beings. And I'm so confident that this model works because it has worked for me. And the other thing is, they're not just keeping the company warm, looking after the clients I've built, keeping the systems I've built running. They have full authority to build things on their own. And the company is now taking on a life of its own in a direction that I probably wouldn't have taken it in. And so, above and beyond being efficient, I'll just take a moment to say that it's just been an enormously satisfying thing to watch happen. So, to wrap that up, we can become more efficient as an industry if we break down the old ideas that everybody thinks to be laws, because it's not a law that you have to have a company with this strict hierarchy of managers and managers and managers, and the boots on the ground have no say. It doesn't make any sense. It should be everybody standing side by side looking out at the world, rather than the manager or owner of the company looking back to the company, spending their energy managing them. If you don't do that, the company leadership can work on the industry level problem. So there you go. So one of the big problems in our industry at the moment is essentially employers are cursed to make the work of their teams fit within an economy that doesn't make sense. And the employees are cursed to run along those rails with very little input. And this is how you get things like the manager or the owner rolling into the yard with a brand new ute while the crew has holes in their boots. And there's no bridge to cross over that understanding. So one of the things I believe I can really help with in this industry is repairing those relationships. And the way I intend to do it is through a self-managed system to say, boots on the ground have no financial exposure, and management are often too far removed from the realities of the day-to-day to make anything work. So we got to start repairing these relationships in between each other. The more tight we are as an industry, the less we're going to have this race to the bottom. And I believe I can help the industry move forward through this problem because I have done it myself. I will put my hand up and claim to say I probably have one of the tightest relationships with my team that exists anywhere in the country. So there's two distinct things I can help with. There's self-actualization, moving forward in your own life, and there's installing self-management into a team, whether that's from an ownership perspective or whether it's from an actual member of the team on how you can start to really take responsibility for your future and install these ideas wherever you work, because it can't just be coming from one side or the other. It's got to be both together. I believe I can help repair these relationships, because it's one thing to say an owner or a manager coming in with a new initiative on a Monday. This is what we're going to do. You're going to do more work, take more responsibility, and there's going to be no extra money from day one. It's not an attractive sell. But I truly believe I have value to this industry in managing that relationship to become not just functional, but more efficient and more effective, and to start building this culture amongst arborist and green industry professionals that is to say, we're not enemies with each other anymore. We're taking responsibility for ourselves and our industry and the asset that we work on and provide to society, being green infrastructure, trees. And I hate using the word infrastructure, but we got to walk people from where they are to where they got to be. So infrastructure is the word for right now. So how do I intend to do this? I'm starting and pushing and building and growing a community called Apex Arborum. It's about growth, it's about learning, it's about support, it's about forward motion, and it's about chasing a new direction for this industry. It's a collaborative effort that we got to have, so it makes sense that we have a collaborative place to hang out. Inside the community, there's going to be weekly live events. There's going to be group calls with me, the Evergreen Token Chief Technical Officer, Grzegorz Baranek, wonderful man, friend of mine, lives in Poland, great guy. And a self-management specialist who's on the call as well at the moment, Nick Thompson, who has literally held my hand through this journey to implement these crazy ideas, to say when everything's falling apart and the world is exploding, you need to believe in your team and you need to give them the authority because they have taken the accountability for themselves. So there's some really whopping value there in just building technical systems. Greg has a wealth of knowledge in that. I obviously have my own expertise in all things arboriculture, whether that be tree climbing. Removals obviously is a huge part of my skill set, but also this repairing of relationships and really understanding what it is to take the path of self-actualization and do what you've been put on this planet to do. So I can help control you. I can help you to control your future. I can help you to build your habits, and I can help you to progress your career. All with the idea of serving the industry. The other thing we're going to provide in the community is direct conversation and a feedback throughput line for the evergreen token. So this is not something I'm putting out to the world and saying, please believe in my idea. I need your help to build it. I eventually will, but if anybody knows me, you'll know that I'm not going to stop. And so what I mean by that is I'm just going to get going on this. There's plenty of people who tell me this and tell me that, say I'm on the wrong path, doing things the wrong way. And that's fine, but I'm going to keep building it anyway. And the idea is if I am successful, then we'll slowly get people migrating from one model to the other. Because once you realize that if we can base our value off tree presence, the market expands. The market we're in right now is shrinking. That's not very good. It's not good for business. It's not good for the canopy. It's not good for society. And it's not good for you. So I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can on this. We're going to start building the token as of next week. In fact, we've already laid the foundation for it. And so inside the community, we're going to discuss it. And the intention there is as the token develops and as the industry changes, you want to be at the source of the information coming out so that you can understand how you as an arborist or a business owner can change what you do to take advantage of this new system, which is much more lucrative than cutting trees down, let me tell you, in theory. I want to include everybody, but I also want to have a really crisp offer to give to the hardcore, the warriors amongst us. The path of self-actualization and the path of installing self-management, that's pretty high-level stuff. And it takes fortitude, and it takes time, and it takes encouragement, and it takes coaching. So there's a free tier where you can enter the community. I just want to get as many arborists in there as humanly possible. And then there's a paid tier as well on top of that. So this is for the hardcores to really push the energy of the industry forward and create a team of hardcore, how do I say this without swearing, hardcore individuals to really take this forward. So the offer I have for you today for the premium tier is full course content of all the things I've mentioned, live events, group calls, exclusive video content if that tickles you. Oh, I'll be really real with you, team. I wrote this expecting a bigger turnout, so this is going to go a different direction than I'd hoped, but I'm going to lay it all out anyway. So it's going to be brutal. Bear with me. The first 20 signups are going to get a keepsake of the redwood I took down, which is the most meaningful tree of my career and how I got famous. It's how everybody knows me. And I've kept as many pieces of that tree as I possibly could. And I'm going to dice them up and I'm going to make them into a token, a keepsake, to remind people that we need to really shift. where this industry is going. You can put it on your desk and it'll keep it in your mind. But we can't stop at 20. We need volume and momentum. So in addition to that, I can also do one-on-one live calls for the first 10 people to sign up to the community. Bear with me, team. One of the intentions for this call was to stir up an energy amongst the old guard, the leadership of the industry, the people who've got us to where we are, people who've really spent their lives building the ARB industry and who are tearing their hair out seeing where it's at. And what I was trying to put together was an incentive to get the likes of them to put the financial energy, the money up front to buy subscriptions for other people. And the idea there was going to be whomever gifted the most subscriptions would have a very special gift that I created a company to make. And so since it's just us 17 people, I'm just going to take you on a little journey and tell you about that quickly. So I have a company called Timber Forge that I created alongside the Apex Arboretum community to I knew that I wasn't going to follow the market incentives within Auckland Tree Services. I knew I wasn't going to optimize for making a big tree business because to do that, you just need to cut down more trees. And I'm very good at cutting down trees. So I knew I needed to source my income from somewhere else. Apex Arboretum was one strategy. The other is Timber Forge. Timber Forge is about the meaning and value that lives in materials. And it came out of the wood waste that we get as an industry. How many tons of beautiful oak, redwood, cedar, whatever, how many tons of that do we see sent to the firewood yards? And so I created this brand to elevate the value of the materials that came out of trees, and it evolved into steel and making and leather work and this whole other thing. But essentially, I'll lay it out anyway because there's nothing to lose here. But for the buyer of the most subscriptions to the Apex Arboretum community for other people to enjoy, Longer and myself will forge by hand for you a 6-pound foundation hammer as a symbol, because we are creating a movement here. It is a symbol of belief in this movement. And hand forged means literally we're swinging hammers at a piece of hot metal, which is a part of us embedding within that metal. The energy we put out has shaped that metal, and so it's a very special, meaningful thing. I have actually created an entire tool set called the Foundation tool set to build specifically this hammer. And the idea is that we would light our scanner and put it in the Timber Forge archives so that everybody can recognize who supports the momentum of this movement, the tree presence movement. So the way that works is Longer swings the hammer and I direct the blows, which is a beautiful symbol of the relationship that we have, because I have big, bold ideas, and it took someone very strong to believe in me to get to where we are now. The challenges we've been through have been massive. And the way we've gotten through that, initially it started as myself directing Longer's energy. He would put it all out on the field, work 60, 70, a million hours a week, come in wrecked at the end of the weekend, and I would point and he would shoot. And this evolved into our relationship as we forged steel and created axes and hammers and things like that for people around us. So there you go. If anybody feels so inclined to buy 100 memberships to Apex Arboretum, You can have a 6-pound foundation hammer and you'll go down in history as the first supporter of the tree presence movement. So we may as well wrap this up, and I'll take any questions after that. But I really just want to pause and invite everybody to take the headset that we view the world through off and realize that we're at a moment in time of very particularly dense gravity. I don't know if anyone's looking at the same things I'm looking at with the weather patterns, the Super El Nino, with the fertilizer situation, the oil situation, the US debt situation. There's about 15 other situations happening at the same time. AI, where that's going, how the build out of the data centers is literally bankrupting the world financially. All these things are happening around us, and we are just focused on, I've got to go to work and I've got to cut trees. And so we have a choice put in front of all of us of, do we stay the same and participate in this circling the drain until the trees are gone and we have no protection from the weather that is to come? Or do we stand up and take on the challenge of creating a new parallel industry? And for the 17 people on this call, cheers to you. I invite you to come with me. But I've said it before and I'll say it again, I will not stop. And I'm going to pick this up and move it forward. So the deadline is midday Sunday for the sign-ups for the founding rate. So that's all I have to say. If anyone has any questions, by all means, shoot them at me. I'm going to sit here and drink beers in the meantime. It's been a pleasure to speak to you today. I appreciate your attention very much. Have a wonderful evening. Steph Dreifeld in the house from Germany, might I add. Do you have any plans put in place for gathering the info needed to create the scanner? The idea is you do it with a LiDAR scan, and you would plug the back end into iTree. So iTree already measures the outputs, the four pillars of output of a tree: stormwater mitigation, carbon sequestration, air pollution removal, and reduction in heat. iTree already does that. So the workflow I am envisioning is scan the tree, get the LiDAR, volumetric scan, plug it into iTree in the back end. iTree says this tree is producing X, Y, Z of these services, and then we create the token out of that. The more services, the more tokens, the more tokens, the more yield, the more reason to have trees, because you get paid for them. What's that? Oh, yes, Jess, by all means, pitch in. Yeah, that's fine. You stand wherever you like.
Kia ora. What we currently have is a lot of mechanisms for ecosystem services in the economy that they support, but they sit a lot in biodiversity credits or carbon sequestration credits, and they're tied up a lot in kind of bigger systems. And it's also relying on offsetting. So someone causes damage and they have to counter that by protecting something else. And it doesn't allow for the individual values of trees in an urban setting to kind of feed into a system. And so where this token sits as a point of difference is it's recognizing services provided, not because we're damaging something over here and we need to replace it, but actually with that forward future thinking space. And so in terms of questioning of who pays for it, there are a number of mechanisms that already exist for ecosystem services provided, such as rate reduction by councils or investments as part of businesses' sort of corporate social responsibility. There's some examples in cities like Singapore and in Germany around living routes. So reduction in the cost of getting resource consent and in rates if you put living roofs on buildings. But where the gap is understanding and really being able to calculate the value that that individual tree holds and putting it as part of a whole system. And that's the real power that arborists can bring into this space, is connecting the tree owner with that knowledge in a way that they can understand by scanning and communicating that. So it isn't currently set under a lot of legislative requirements. And as you guys all know, that's actually just being removed over and over and over again. Tree protection, what's being required under the RMA or whatever mechanism is used, is becoming less and less and less. And so being able to enter into voluntary investments for those that stay off a market that's run by current legislation is actually where the real power is.
What a wonderful description. Thank you, Jess. Appreciate that.
Go back to my admin role.
Nice one. James Isaac, who pays the yield? Does that answer your question, or do you want me to answer that specifically? And in the meantime, I will answer Dan. Would a compulsory ARB impact assessments not cover this? It may do, but if you can convince Luxon to do that, be my guest. What I'm talking about, it's a re-understanding of our role and the power that we have. Protection and compulsory this, that, and the other, and legislative this, that, and the other. It relies on appealing to a government that is trying to optimize for the economy, not the environment. And so my belief is that we're not going to get that through. There's no way that they're going to make compulsory ARB impact assessments because they don't care about the trees. Does that make sense? More specific, the better, James Isaac. Who pays the yield? Great question. And this is the crux of the whole operation, and I've had to explain it many, many times. The yield is paid by anybody who either wants to manifest trees in their city or has an incentive to. And what I mean by that is if we cut all the trees down, which is what we are doing, we don't exist in a vacuum. The bills for stormwater mitigation go up. We have to build more infrastructure if there are not trees slowing down that stormwater. So it's the likes of going to the, I say council because it's a proxy for this, but that comes with its own challenges. Whomever pays the bill for the stormwater system has an incentive to pay for trees, because what's cheaper? Going to buy lunch or realizing you're already full? We are not looking at the value that trees are providing, and therefore we assume they don't count. And so what I'm trying to say is, if there was a small payment put toward the retention of the tree to incentivize tree retention, then we wouldn't have to pay the massive cost of the consequences of not having all these trees, because we are continuing to develop. The economy is continuing to eat the canopy, and that's just how things are going. So to answer your question more specifically, James, it's whomever's bills are reduced by the presence of trees. And in addition to that, if you take it from a retention lens and flip it into a procurement lens, there is a dollar value that people have for stormwater, for cooling. People pay for services that trees also provide. You can cool your house with an AC, or you can cool your house with a tree. If there was an incentive for trees to be there, i.e. you pay for the tree rather than paying for the AC, the trees would be there. Take it back to stormwater because it's the easiest collective example. If it costs X amount to build stormwater infrastructure to mitigate the stormwater, and it costs Y amount for the tree to do it, we should put that option on the table. Right now, there is a lever that people can pull, institutions can pull, to say, fix this problem with engineering, but there is no green lever that they can pull to say, let's fix this problem with trees, where they could literally just put an amount of money toward it and have it done. It doesn't exist, and I think we should build that. Dan Redfern, it is not us who need convincing of this. I struggle convincing someone not to do the wrong thing. Yes. Do you think that conversation would change if you were, rather than saying you should not beat this tree up because it's the right thing to do, but you should not beat this tree up because it's going to pay you less. Do you think that would change the conversation? If there was an actual financial incentive to make the tree bigger, better, and more present, do you think it would be easier to convince people to retain them? When they value that asset above another? Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. So the comment was there's a hierarchy. Appreciate the addition there. I don't believe that a government should step into somebody's life and tell them what they should or shouldn't do. There's a time and a place for it. We obviously need laws, but what the evergreen token is humankind's tool to value the presence of canopy. You don't need to protect a tree from somebody who doesn't want to cut it down. And if they want, if there's a road that needs to go in, cut the trees down. Like there's got to be a balance. It's not about saying we need to save every tree. But if we value the road in the same terms, the economic terms, as we value the tree, then we're gonna have parity. We're gonna have equal outcomes, and then it's a question of saying we have to kill the tree every time because we need to put a road through. It's a case of, well, okay, well, the tree's yielding this much to our economy. Is the road worth more than that? If yes, cut the tree down. If no, then build around it. What is your? Oh, we got lots of questions now. Hell yeah, team, we can do this. Go up to Ben. What's your thought on licensing this trade? I'm often underbid by guys with pickups. I'm really debating just changing careers and becoming a lineman, more stable work and better pay. I would say adopt a tree presence mindset or change career. Yeah. My thought on licensing the trade is complicated. There is an amount of regulation that I believe is helpful, and beyond that it is an overbearing authoritative statement. And what I mean by that is regulation increases costs to the end user. It's one thing to say you must do this, you must do that, these are the regulations, you must tick these boxes. But essentially, what we do as arborists is we lean on we need to be regulated to avoid changing what we actually have to do, which is we got to stop cutting trees down. Like that's the critical thing underneath it. So regulating the current industry model that we have will only make safer, more professional people cutting the same amount of trees down. And that doesn't work for me. I hope that answers your question. Taniora, do you think a digital platform could help scale tree retention programs by allowing homeowners to track their trees, arborists to verify maintenance, and incentives to be managed in one place? Yes, it's called the Evergreen Token. And I'm building it. Thank you, Taniora. But to answer your question in a more serious way, yes, that sounds fantastic. But you got to remember, people follow incentives. They only do something if there's something in it for them. People don't want to make more efficient the management of their tree that they don't care about. They first need to care about the tree. And so to round that off and tie it up with a bow, I think what you're talking about is wonderful, but it needs to come with an incentive for keeping trees around as well. James Isaacs, this makes sense. I feel like they all need scanning first, and over years you could build an argument that every dollar put towards the tokens generates some other beneficial output, such as reduction in stormwater costs, but who pays for the initial scanning? Good question. So the idea of the scan is the cost of that would come out of the back end. So if we were to stand side by side as arborists and say this is our value to society, we would want a frictionless interface between people and getting paid for their trees. You don't want them to sign up to a massive list of X, Y, Z. You got to do this, 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 and this. Let me just remember who pays for the initial scan. So you take your value out of the back end. You would say, hey, we can get this tree to pay you 500, 800, $1,000 a year. And you take your cut, your remuneration as the arborist who created that connection, out of that payment. So you're not saying, I need you to pay me $350 and I'll plug you into the system. You plug them into the system and you take a clip because we as arborists would own the infrastructure. Does that make sense to you?
Maybe.
Scale. That's a good one. I'll just answer Hikaru first and then I'll talk about scale. Is the first step in the system going to be from New Zealand, then going to spread to other countries? The short answer is yes, but only because I live in New Zealand and I am the driving force of this. So it's not a country or a city specific thing. The idea is that if we built the protocol to make this whole thing happen, we build a trustworthy protocol, then that would be something that we as the global arborist community could transfer city to city and implement in other places. The problem with a rates rebate is that you're at the whim of the council for the city that you're in, whereas what I'm talking about is arborist run infrastructure. So we create the protocol of the token, we create the systems, we create the structures, we create flows, and then we say, hey, this works here. Would you like to implement it, dear friend, in your city, in this other city, in this place, in that place? So to answer your question directly, Hikaru, yes, the plan is to start it in New Zealand because that's where I have trees to access. But once I've proven the concept, maybe it spreads to other places like wildfire. Dan Redfern, do you have a very clear roadmap of how to get cracking with this? Yes, I do. And I will, I guess, send it out to everybody on the call. I'm sure we have an email list. The white paper I've written for this problem lays it out. It's basically, we have to create a protocol first. This is how Bitcoin got started. The reason people started investing in Bitcoin is because the protocol itself was the value. It's an uninflatable, supposedly, asset. And so people who are like, I want my money to be uninflatable, took their fiat currency and put it into Bitcoin, solely on the premise that Bitcoin could be this new structure of money. If we can create as arborists a bomb-proof, trustless system where everybody can look at it and be like, this token literally represents this tree, and I have no doubt in my mind that that is true, then it starts to come together from there. So the protocol is the most important thing. Then it would be scanning trees, signing them up, so we have a portfolio of trees to say, here are these trees that literally exist in this place that are reducing your costs, and they're going to be removed at some point unless there's a financial incentive to keep them. So it's a lot easier to say, hey, I have a portfolio of trees to prove my point, rather than arguing abstract things. Hey, you should pay for these trees that you cannot see and do not know are real. Hopefully that answers that question. Zoom user, if the tree owner is paying to remove the tree, then they are also paying to scan the tree. Either way, the money ends up in the arborist's pocket, but the scanning of the tree leads to a regular returning income for the arborist and a return of some sorts for the tree owner. This is a remarkably astute observation, my friend. This is what I'm saying. If there's trees there, we can keep scanning them, and we would have to scan them every year to keep the payment going, because you'd have to tie it to reality. You'd have to say the tree is this big, and it was next year it's going to be this big, and that yields this many tokens, and rah. But you're right. What I'm suggesting is a market that expands, not contracts, because we're in a contracting market and we're racing to the bottom of it. Dan Redfern, thank you for your email. Shani, we have an email list. Wonderful. So I join your community. My contribution helps you build the system from a financial perspective. Other than that, what does me being a part of your community benefits for me and also the token? I don't want to brag, man. I've done some stuff. And the idea of the community is that I want to bring all of the heavy hitters who want change, and I want to feed them with the tools, the skill set, and the information from my own experience. Bear in mind, my risk tolerance is set through the roof. So I've run experiments that most people won't even try. And what I'm trying to do is say, I have value to add because I have already been through this. I can talk you through it. I can coach you through it. I can, you know, I've learned cash flow. I've learned profitability. I've learned all of these different skills, relationship management. I can tell you how to cut a tree down if you want to. The value of it is let me build things around you to push you and the industry forward. Are there any more questions as we approach 3 minutes to 6 o'clock? Wonderful. My friends, truly thank you for being here. Dan Redfern with the last late-minute question. Totally with you, not about things making me compulsory, getting people to make their own decisions based on a sense of responsibility, and that's the rub right there. Sir, power to you. I appreciate the support massively. And I'll wrap it up there. Thank you for being here. Oh, one quick question. Okay, Zoom user. Your recent trip to Ukraine, what inspiration have you taken away from how they operate over there, given companies are existing in a war zone? How are these companies surviving, given money is dried up and workers are being plucked up by the military? Have you been watching my content? That's a great comment. I appreciate it massively. The answer is there's some hardcore people in Ukraine. So to give you just a real quick Reader's Digest of what happened, I got an invite in my inbox in Instagram that said, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. We're creating an industry competition like everybody in the rest of the world does to build our industry, to come together and increase our skills. We would love it if you would attend our competition. It would mean the world to us, and having your experience there would help us build our industry. So to give you a sense of what the economic model looks like, that whole country is propped up on other people's money. I think it's primarily American dollars being funneled in for aid. So their economy is not, it's kind of being funded from the outside as far as I understand it. And Hikaru, you might have a better understanding of that than me. But the answer is they're fighting very, very, very hard. And if you put yourself into the perspective of a Ukrainian arborist, you don't want to go to war, but you do want to help your country out of the situation you're in. And they have decided to grow their industry as a response to what's happening. And so they reached out to the world. I was the only one who came. But let me just see if I can answer your question more directly. What inspiration have you taken away from how they operate? The inspiration I've taken is like, I think things are hard for me. Like, let's be real. Let's be really, really real here. I needed this webinar to work because I can't pay my mortgage on Sunday. But that is a small problem in comparison to what they deal with. I went over there and I climbed inside of a Russian tank and I saw melted metal and all sorts of horror. I went on a tour around Bucha, which is a city that got invaded in 2022. Forgive me, Dima, if I'm wrong on that. Maybe 21. It gave me a sense of perspective of, while I think I have problems, I don't have problems, right? Sure, I've been fighting this battle and acting against economic incentives, but I don't have to worry about what they have to worry about. And so that drives me to a new level. I mean, it drove me to do this. Like, the reason I'm putting this on is I want to build a community that these Ukrainians can benefit from. I offered everyone who came to that competition, the Ukrainian national championships, I offered them a free subscription because they had taken the risk to have a competition while they're at war and being snatched off the street. So a lot of this is for them. So that's the inspiration I've taken. Thank you for the comment. And the last one, Rue, insensitive needs to be, and I'm assuming you mean incentive. Incentive needs to be big enough to be seen by the people who impact the urban canopy the most, who are the people that can afford to remove trees without looking at the cost. I can see how those who value small passive income will be incentivized, But what about the big cash? Do you have trust that we can find a big enough incentive? Wonderful question. And that's why I framed this with the two beliefs that we have to have. Trees are valuable and we can convince people of it, because the alternative is really, really shit. So do I believe it can happen? Yes, because my life is a collection of extraordinary, unlikely things happening. And they only happened because I believed they could be done. And what I'm trying to do is infect this culture, these humans running around on this rock in space with the idea that it doesn't have to be shit. We don't have to drive into the ground. We can pull up. We should and we must. And I will end on that. It's been a pleasure to have you with me, team, and I will see you on the next one.